The Radio Wammo Breakfast.
Talking politics with Russell Norman.
Co-leader of the Greens, Russell Norman's with us this morning. I think he's in an airport lounge in between flights. G'day there, Russell.
Hey, Wammo, how's it going?
Very good. Now, over the weekend, of course, the results for, most of the local body elections are in. They're still waiting on Wellington, aren't they? They're still waiting on the Wellington results?
Yeah, should have Wellington by the end of today.
Yeah. Generally, you could say that there was a swing towards mayors and councils that favour, I guess, for want of a better word, greener options for their cities. That is, more sustainable options and also transport as well. And yesterday, you in Parliament, you asked the question to the Minister of Transport. You asked him what impact, if any, will the outcome of the local government elections have on his priorities for transport funding. What kind of response did you get, Russell?
Not much, I think was the answer he gave. Basically, Stephen Joyce and central government have their motorway fetish. So he wants to spend $1.7 billion on his little pet project, which is the holiday highway up to Wellford. And he's not really listening to the local body voters, because people at a local body level, Hamilton, Auckland, Wellington in particular, all voted for more trains ahead of new motorway projects. And yet he still seems caught up in it. Interesting thing is the rail loops, the CBD rail loop in Auckland would cost about the same as his little pet holiday highway. And
the holiday highway being north of Auckland? Yeah,
Tuhoe to Wellford. Holiday highway has, even on their own assessment, has very low benefits, economic benefits or other benefits. If you spend a fraction of that money improving safety along those highways, you'd make as big a difference in terms of safety. So, they've got their motorway thing.
So they're saying that that these local council pet projects, being transport, rail loops, that kind of thing, should be funded by ratepayers.
Yeah, that's right. So they're saying that they'll pay the full cost of their particular little motorway projects, but they won't pay. They might pay something, but not the full cost of the upgrades in the rail system, which is, obviously just a straight bias for the road industry and the road freight industry. Let's remember there's a huge subsidy to trucking in New Zealand because you don't have to get any kind of capital return on the state highway network. It's provided free, whereas you have to get a return on the rail network or on the port infrastructure. So there's a basic, profound subsidy towards the trucking industry in New Zealand, and National want to make it worse.
Do you think, though, that citizens could have an appetite for higher rates to pay for these kind of projects, though?
Well, when they polled in Auckland, people did have an appetite to increase rates to pay for the rail connection to the airport, which was the most preferred transport option, and to a lesser degree for the CBD rail loop. So there is some appetite for increased rates, but we have a central fund for funding transport projects, and currently the vast bulk of that gets thrown on these roads of national significance or the pet motorway projects. Even though there's no economic case was present when they decided to fund those projects. So we just think the national funding needs to be at least dollar for dollar between roading and other projects, rather than $7 or $8 on motorways ahead of alternatives like public transport, walking and cycling.
John Key this week has started to reveal his hand somewhat with regards to his views on the MMP referendum coming up in the next election. In fact, he's saying that he probably doesn't favour MMP and perhaps favours STV.
Yeah, he's kind of cautiously exploring, as is his wont, the ground for overturning MMP, because obviously it suits National in particular to get rid of MMP. So, yeah, I think he's looking at that. And anyone who obviously supports a fair electoral system which has diversity and every vote counts, in my view, should support MMP.
Do you think there should be, though, a rule, and I know you obviously support MMP, but should there be a rule where MPs or politicians stay quiet on this one, so they just let it up to the people and an education campaign to decide?
Well, I think certainly that there will be non-political party groups leading the debate, but it's, basically you can't stay silent on it. People ask you, for your opinion. And, John Key's entitled to his opinion. I don't think you can ask the political parties to stay silent on it.
But
obviously...
I was just going to say, wouldn't there be some concern, though? He's currently generally polling above 50% as preferred Prime Minister. So you would think that public and popular opinion would be swayed by whatever he thinks.
I think that it's certainly true that he does have considerable sway, but I don't think, you can ask him to... I'm not going to go and ask him not to speak out about it. If he has a view about it, it's his right to speak out about it.
But what is concerning, though, is that he's saying he doesn't favour MMP, but he's not talking about the fact that with the referendum comes the option to change MMP, not to scrap it completely, but to reconfigure it so that it actually does work better.
Yeah, I agree, and he does have, I think, a responsibility to present that argument fairly. I mean, if next year we vote to keep MMP, then there'll be a review conducted by non-politicians, by the Electoral Commission, which can look at any modifications to MMP. The most obvious one is what's called the coattailing rule, where Rodney Hyde wins Epsom and you get these other ACT MPs in, even though the ACT party didn't get over 5% of the party vote.
Yeah.
So there can be a review if MMP is successful at the next referendum. And I think that's a critical thing for people to keep in mind as they go into the referendum.
All right, thanks, Russell. Enjoy your next flight. Thanks very much.
All right. Cheers, mate.
Co-leader of the Greens, Russell Norman, there with us. Here's a track from Psychic Nick. This is called Sonic Sunday.